students. The question was, at the graduate level, are professors expecting us to collaborate with classmates to do assignments, to rely on one another for help, and exhausting all peer resources before coming to them with any help or clarification questions on an assignment? And I'll ask Dr. Topolewski to tackle this one.
Oh, really? Okay. So you guys are all graduate students. And I would hope that you wouldn't get into the sort of the undergraduate habit of just looking at, say, a set of homework problems or an assignment and coming to the instructor before even trying it. I think that probably annoys faculty more than anything else when somebody comes into our office and says, can you show me how to do problems 1 through 7? So, well, let's see what you've got. Oh, I haven't looked at them yet. So, but to address the question, are we expecting you to exhaust all peer resources? I would say not necessarily. What I'm looking for is, the old college try, basically. I want you to take a problem or an assignment as far as you can. And when you come up to the point where you're banging your head against the wall, then come see me. But don't bang one bang is enough. All right, as everybody has said, come early. Don't say, well, I'm at an impasse, and then try the same attempts to get around that impasse for a week and frustrate yourself. Because if you show me that you've attempted a problem or attempted to do the work, and you show me where you're stuck, I'm in a great position to help you, because hopefully I'll be able to see the problem. But unless I have that, I'm not going to be able really to help you. Clarifications, if you don't understand the assignment or you don't understand something I said in class, ask immediately. Don't necessarily go to your friends if it's a true clarification. If you were, not you personally, but if a student is, and we know this, we see you with your computers out there. If a student's on their computer browsing eBay or something and they miss what I said, they might be a little embarrassed to come, and rightly so, and ask me. Then go to your friends and your buddies. Dr. T, I was on eBay, and forget that. But clarifications are, I think, essential. So I'll tell you a quick story. Last spring, I taught a biomechanics class, and I've been trying a new thing because I have seniors and graduate students in that class, and I'll come up with homework assignments sort of on the fly. And I'll say, oh, this would be a good thing for you to look up, or this would be a good equation for you to finish deriving on your own. That's part of your homework assignment. And at the end of the class, I say, do you understand the homework as I've assigned it on the fly? And no questions. And I thought everything was great until I got the blue sheets at the end of the year saying, oh, he should be more clear about the homework assignments. And I kept saying, ask, 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 ask. All right, so asking is a good thing, but also when you're doing an assignment, giving it a try and working hard, go ahead and ask your friends. And there may be something underlying this question on collaboration with respect to, say, doing your own work versus collaborative or even plagiaristic type of work. We all expect you to turn in your own work. We also know that many people do very well learning in groups. And in groups, what we expect you to do is discuss concepts and help each other conceptually, not do each other's work.
Collaborating with faculty. Now, this is one that came to me and has come to me several times in my office in individual emails, or people have come to me directly, but they didn't want to write it online. And so this one says, the outside member of my committee invited my advisor and I to write a paper with him. He has been very instrumental in my research, but my advisor is stalling. In other words, the advisor is not really trying to move forward with being collaborative for that particular paper. And so the student wanted to know why. Why is this happening? Because the advisor is not really giving an answer. And along with that, this is a connected kind of question. The student says, I want to present at a conference with one of my other committee members, but my advisor won't let me go and doesn't want my name on the poster. But it's my work. I don't understand, and I can't get an answer when I ask. So even though this might not have been a situation with our 4 panelists, do you have any insight, keeping your faculty hat on, maybe why some of your colleagues might have reacted in this way?
Oh, go ahead, Steve. I was gonna, first off, there's the context behind either of these things is so potentially rich and different. We could each come up with a backstory, separate one for all. I mean, hundreds of potential things. And on the face of them, the way they're written, they are, I don't want to say offensive, but bothersome. In the sense, wow, what do you mean you won't let me do the research? I can partially address the conference thing, which, at least in our field, you shouldn't present the same research over and over and over again. That's not cool. I'm not within our field of psychology. So if you have a research and you present it at a conference, say American Psychological Association, you wouldn't then present it at Eastern Psychological Association or Society for you present once. So if the advisor has an idea of where she or he wants to present that might be some context. Mm-hmm. But on their own, I'll let Steve, it's hard for me to understand this directly.
Mm-hmm. Whoops. Yeah, I was going to address the first one because actually I have an example, no names, but I have a colleague who is funded to do X. They have a collaborator that's interested in doing Y, and the student is also being kind of pulled in to do Y along with the collaborator. And in that regard, I can kind of understand why the faculty member is stalling, because it's something that they're not directly funded to do. Their resources are allocated for other purposes. And so they're torn, I'm sure, that they want what's best for their student, but they also have these obligations to the funding agency and to getting Project X up and going. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, maybe the best advice I would give if there's a situation like the first one or the second one is try to work out some kind of a compromise where you try to find out why it is. I know that the second one says, I'm not getting any answers, but usually you can pull an answer out as with respect to why the faculty member is stalling about you presenting, or about why, or with respect to you working on a particular project, and then suggest some kind of compromise where you work primarily on what the faculty member wants you to work on, but that you also work on the other thing, and then secretly you work on that other thing. There are a lot of things you don't have to tell your faculty about what you're working on. I think some of the best discoveries I've heard have been things that the mentor did not want the student to work on. They kind of did it secretly, not that I'm proposing that or suggesting you guys all do this, but you don't necessarily have to tell your mentor everything that you're doing. If that means you do a little bit extra work to try to get that second project going, I'm all for it.
In terms of one of those, when the faculty says X and what do they mean? If they specifically say they don't want you to present at a conference, my opinion is you don't present at the conference anyway unless you work it out with the advisor. I understand why the strategy of continuing to do perhaps just with the other outside member, but if they've specifically said, I don't want you to do something, you absolutely are entitled to an explanation better than, but I think that if they've made explicit, it is in your best interest to pursue why they're explicit about not wanting to present.
Because? Just so that everyone understands the consequences.
I was trying to keep up.
Tim was talking earlier, when he gets angry, he gets quiet. And really, there's only two things, and they're really the same thing a student can do to piss me off. And that's somehow lie. Be it cheating on a paper, on an exam, or, and if I say don't do something, if they then go do an end run around me, that's really a sign of disloyalty. And I won't yell at them, but I will steam. Mm-hmm. Because if I've said no, there's a reason, if that makes sense. So, but I will explain it if I was.
I think that working and presenting would be two different things. To do work, in fact, I hope my students are doing things I don't know about, because you guys are smarter than me, and if you're doing everything I'm telling you, then you're only doing part of your job, which is to teach me new things. But presenting when you don't put all the co-authors' names on the paper, for example, which would include your advisor, maybe, in many cases. That's definitely not a good thing to do. What Steve Pitts said earlier about the backstory is very interesting, and the way these are written, it seems to me that this particular student may be getting into a sort of a, not necessarily a battle, but just a little bit of professional jealousy between the advisor and the committee member. Many advisors may feel a little bit like the student is going to work with this other person and not with me, your advisor. It's something that I did not initiate, and therefore I'm losing you as my student. Now, if anybody here asked me to write a paper with somebody else, I'd jump at the chance, because I like writing papers with other people, and if that person's going to do all the work and I get some of my name on it, that's great. But and what this is leading me to is not the fact that these things happen or they don't happen, but if you find yourself being torn between two faculty members, somebody on your committee and your advisor, then it's probably a good time to seek outside advice, because you don't want to be the one who is trying to negotiate that. That's not your role. It's probably not appropriate from the faculty standpoint to put a graduate student in between as either a subtle messenger that I don't want to work with this other person, or a more overt messenger to say, don't take my student away from me, or don't present at this conference. That's not your job. And at that point, I would worry and say, maybe talk to your chairperson, your graduate program director, a faculty member that you know and trust, somebody like that. Even if it's just to voice your concern, what the heck's going on here? What can I do? A lot of times students will come to me with a concern, and I say, okay, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to intervene, or are you going to look at some other means of addressing it? And I always leave that option for the student. And then and I was graduate program director in my department for 10 years or so. And many times the students would work it out, but when they needed me to try to be an intermediary, then I would